All right, it's District Breakdown time. Jon Poorman joins me from the Houston Chronicle. We call it District Breakdown, but we don't have any districts left. We've already broke them all down. We've already tapped into Jon's mind. He broke everything down for us, so we're good on that. But we would like to hear what you think about Houston area teams in the postseason and how far you think they might go. Let's start off with the private school ranks. Is there a couple teams that you think may have a good run at a state title in the private school ranks?
Yeah, there absolutely are. And I'm going to start with kind of my preseason number one team from the private school ranks in the Houston area, and that's Fort Bend Christian. They obviously made it to the TAP state semifinals last year. They came up short, 14-13 against Second Baptist, who I'll get to in a minute. But I really love what they have coming back with the quarterback wide receiver duo of Brady Dever and Brian Domino. Dever is just an outstanding player. He put up, some really gaudy numbers last year, and that offense is going to be scary with him leading the way again. Obviously they're going to be motivated. They're one step away from reaching that state championship game, and I really like kind of that motivation that they're going to have coming back. That being said, you have Second Baptist with the bragging rights against against Fort Bend Christian with that victory in the state semifinals. I think that they're gonna be a really good team as well. Again, they graduated some key pieces, but they're a program that is kind of built the right way to compete, be competitive every single year. They obviously kind of broke through and had a big season this past year, but I really like where they're at as a program and moving forward. I think that they can definitely compete, at the top of this TAPS bracket and potentially break through, and maybe we'll see them in another state championship.
Yeah, those are definitely some teams we'll keep an eye on for, and I'll definitely be keeping an eye on Brady Devin, man. He was shattering some yardage marks left and right there at Fort Bend Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move into UIL and talk about kind of the smaller classifications for a through the bottom there. Talk about is there any team in our Houston area, which we'd have to reach out to get to some, but the ones that's kind of close to the Houston area that you think might make a run here in the lower classifications?
The first one that pops into my mind is El Campo, and that's because they have one of the top players in the country in their backfield with Ruben Owens, who recently committed to Louisville, which was kind of a shock to a lot of people, but, he wants to kind of blaze his own path there with the Cardinals, and certainly has a chance to do that. He rushed for almost 3,000 yards last year, 46 touchdowns. He's, besides maybe David Hicks at Peyto, he's probably the best player in the Houston area overall. And so with him in the backfield leading the way, obviously they made it to the regional semifinals last year before falling against Little Cypress Mauriceville. But, I think coming back with the number of returners that they have, they got some holes to fill on the offensive line. But anytime you have a guy of Owens' caliber touching the ball, especially at the 4A level, I mean, that's super dangerous. Coach Chad Worrell has done a great job of really building up that program into a perennial contender. And I think they have what it takes. I think they have the roster to make a deep playoff run this year.
And Coach Worrell already sitting there with the state title ring on his finger, first time at Brock, so should be interesting to see there. You go down to move up to 5A. We don't have a ton of teams or a ton of districts at 5A, but we do have some talented teams there. Who do you think may have a chance of making a run towards 4 or 5 rounds deep in the postseason?
Yeah, well, I mean, you talk about Crosby and what they've done the past 2 years under Coach Jerry Prieto. I mean, just fantastic, making it to a state championship game and then coming up in the state semifinals last year. They with Ciaran Miles, their dual threat quarterback leading the way. I think that they have a lot of talent, a lot of potential. Obviously, that experience at that position is going to be crucial come deep in the playoffs. And I love what they did last year. It was a different look team from their state championship run the year before, but they still made it work. The emergence of Miles, and I can't say enough about that guy. I mean, what he was able to do his first year as a starter was quite amazing, and he's the main reason why I think that they have a chance to go on another run here. Manville, of course, I mean, what can you say about the Mavericks? Every single year, they're kind of in the discussion, top 10 of the state rankings. I think it'll be more of the same. this season, and it's going to be interesting. They're in a really unique district, which we talked about earlier this summer, but that's going to be a really interesting district to kind of navigate, and I think that it'll prepare them well for the playoffs and another potential deep playoff run.
And looking at Division Two in that 5A classification, I mean, you got Fort Bend Marshall sitting there, who has a similar player to Miles and Jacoby Banks, where he can kind of do it all and run and pass. And they are they're so devastated from the way things went last year, losing that first round playoff game. But they're in a little bit of a tougher district too. Do you think that will maybe beef them up a little bit instead of they were beating down on Houston ISD teams last year in the district? Maybe they got some players in there to help them out.
Yeah, my dog is barking to remind me about Fort Bend Marshall. Of course, I mean, they're another team that always comes up really high in the preseason state rankings, and for good reason. I think that this year with the district that they're in, it's going to give them a better test and allow them to kind of, play a higher level of opponent week in and week out, and that's going to prepare them for the playoffs so that, when they come up against a team like Barbers Hill, where maybe on paper, they're far and away the better team, but when it comes to playing on the field, maybe they weren't prepared exactly for that, just because of their schedule, and that's by no fault of their own. But I think this district is going to help prepare them even more. And, you mentioned Jacoby Banks. He's being recruited as a receiver, obviously, but he did a great job stepping in at quarterback last season. And, he's another dual threat guy that can take over a game at any time. So really excited about what the Buffaloes have going this year.
And that leaves us with 6A. In Class 6A, we definitely are going to have one team that makes it to the state semifinals, because we take Region 3, and that's all Houston area teams. Talk about some of the teams. Obviously, we're going to talk about North Shore, but is there any teams in there that you have an eye on that maybe hasn't gone super far before, and you're looking for, or is it going to be kind of same old in 6A, you think?
It's tough to say. I mean, you talk about North Shore winning 3 of the last 4 Division I state championships. Obviously, they're going to be one of the top contenders. I think they're ranked number 2 in the state and number 10 in the country. So, I really love what they have coming back as well. And it's hard to bet against them there in Region 3. And then, it's going to be interesting with Katy. I think that they are probably, if they go Division II, I think that they probably will again. I think that they're going to be the best team in the state in that Division II bracket. And so, in my eyes, especially with what they have coming back with guys like Seth Davis, they're awesome running back leading the way. I think that they're the odds-on favorites if they end up in that Division II bracket for sure. You kind of look down the lineup. I'm really interested to see what Westfield can do this year. They have a new quarterback, PJ Hatter, who transferred over from Klein Oak. That filled the big hole that they had with Cardell Williams graduating and going to Tulsa. Their program each and every year. I mean, you go back and look at the track record, and sometimes I think Westfield doesn't get enough respect for what they've been able to do with year in and year out, winning district titles and making it to the regional championship games and stuff like that. I mean, it's just amazing, what the Meekins brothers have done over there. And so with Hatter leading the way there and kind of stepping into that position, I'm really interested to see what Westfield can do. It's going to be fun. Of course, their rivalry with Spring is always a really fun game too. We'll see what the Lions have to offer, but yeah. Those are 3 of the teams that I'm really looking at, really excited about potentially making deep playoff runs.
It's going to be exciting. It all starts next week, and my man Jon will be with us every week on the show, talking next level, talking final decision on certain players throughout the year, and I'm looking forward to that. I appreciate you joining me this summer, and we will see you during the year.
Sounds good.